I ended up going to the elite schools of the United States. And those, in case you're interested, I went to Harvard as an undergraduate, then I went to Stanford in California, and then I finished and got my PhD at Yale University in Connecticut. By American standards, that's like being a poster boy for elite education. And my experience, 10 years in this Ivy League, I learned two things that shaped me. One, that everybody was trying to convince me that the economic system I lived in was the best the world could imagine, the best, as we say here in America, the best since sliced bread, and that the proper position for a professor, as for anybody else, was to celebrate it. And that if you didn't celebrate it, it meant either that you were ignorant or that you had some evil ulterior motive, exactly, rendering you disloyal in some way.
Stupid or dangerous.
That's right. Or maybe both. Maybe you've achieved both of these remarkable things. And the other thing I learned was that every time I asked tentatively, hesitantly, a question that revealed some criticism of capitalism, some area where it didn't work out real well, I could see as a student the intense discomfort of my teachers. This was true of teachers I didn't like, but it was also true of teachers I did like, teachers I appreciated who had taught me things. But the minute I came close to anything critical of capitalism, they became fearful. They either couldn't answer my questions or they were afraid to. I learned, and I wasn't the only one, I learned that there were areas that were taboo, that you could not discuss, that where the hostility and the anxiety were so deep that otherwise intelligent people took a pride in knowing nothing about it. So here's a sentence for you. Harvard, Stanford, and Yale, at no time, with one exception at Stanford, whose name I'll give you in a minute, with one exception, none of my teachers ever assigned me one word of Karl Marx's Kapital.
Of course.
Not a word. I don't even mean, the later Marxist tradition. I'm talking about the basic work, nothing. And in their answers, it was clear to me since I began reading that they had never read this material, or if they had buried it. The one exception, a professor who was the reason I went to Stanford. His name was Paul Baran, B-A-R-A-N. And I had the great privilege, was the last year of his life. I did not know that when I went, but it was the last year of his life. And since I was the only student close to him who wanted to work with him, I got to do some of the work on the book Monopoly Capital, which people who know the literature know had a quite wide influence later on. He was a very important teacher for me. He had us read Marx, but nobody else ever did.
You only need one person. That's all you need.
That's right.
You don't need a whole curriculum.
That's
you just
right.
Somebody just to open the door, and leave it ajar so you can step in. And, I can't think of anyone better to do this for you than Paul Baran.
Yes, he was a very good teacher, and I got a kind of tutoring from him because of the good fortune that other students were advised to steer clear of him, the argument being it would be dangerous for your career.